Hey guys, it's ESG. I just wanted to do a quick video comparing different aircraft designs in By Blood Alone. So let's get into it here. The first aircraft design that I have here is Fighter 2 with 4X heavy machine gun and the engine 3. So this would be an early production model of Fighter 2. And what I like about it is the max speed is 630. The agility is 78 and the attack is 12, production cost of 25. So this is before you get the engine 4, and you can get the Fighter 2 airframe, the improved small airframe, quicker as Germany through Focus. I have another video on that. You should go check that out. But let's contrast this with the airframe B as the AI named it here. And we can pull up with the new tool here in the aircraft plane designer, we can pull up the last airframe. So as you can see to the second design here of Fighter 2, I've added 4X heavy machine gun, 2X heavy machine gun, 2X light machine gun, and engine 4. And the reason why I did this was the fact that I feel like you lose too much speed with the first iteration of the fighter. So you can see that engine 4 here gives you a lot more speed, so you're able to add on more weight onto the fighter, despite the fact that the design is slowed down. So even though the design is slowed down, the first iteration of the fighter model speed is 630 kilometers an hour, whereas the second is 690. And the difference between the air attack of these two fighters is air attack of 12 and air attack of 22. Okay, sorry, I think I just found something. So when I pull up to improve small airframe A under the plane designer, the agility was way higher than it is when I look at it in this view. I think that when you do the equipment comparison screen, it shows you the true stats between the two designs. But basically in the last design iteration, the agility was, I believe it was 78. So this is probably the true agility of the first design, which is fine. And then what we have going on here is the agility with the increased engine type is probably the same. It's probably 65, but this is a bug that I'll report to Paradox. So the agilities are probably both 65. But as you can see, the speed is much different. So if you didn't know this, the agility is the 2-hit roll. It's how the fighter can maneuver in the air to hit an opponent. Now the speed makes it quicker to do sorties. So you can do more sorties as your speed increases. Unless they've changed that mechanic, I'm not sure. But what you see in the second iteration of the Fighter 2 is a higher production cost. It looks like the cost difference is 4. However, the speed with the engine 4 is up 60 kilometers an hour, and the air attack is 10 more as well. So in AI games, when I tested this, the first iteration of this fighter design did well against the AI. And so I would build the first iteration of this design. You're also building up production efficiency so that when you convert into the next iteration of the design, you've actually saved some production efficiency. Now, whether this is viable in multiplayer or not, I'm not sure, but it probably is better to just get the final design and then put that into production, and not have the design with the less amount of air attack, because they'll just get shredded in the air because there's such a big difference between the speed and the air attack that you won't be able to compete against your opponent. But in single player, yes, I would say it would be good to make both iterations of these designs. Now, let's upgrade this one further. So we've got the advanced small airframe here, and then we'll compare the stats of the improved Fighter 2 airframe. And what we see here is a stat of air defense of 1 more. I don't think that the agility is correct. So I think the agility is probably somewhere around in the 70s, but it's more than the agility of the improved small airframe, the improved Fighter 2. The air attack is exactly the same. The speed is down a little bit too. So I think the kind of the stats here are probably a little wacky. So if I compare these two, okay, this shows me the true agility. So the agility is 80 when I compare it against itself. So interesting to note here, the speed of the advanced small airframe only went down 10 kilometers an hour. However, the range increased 200 kilometers, which doesn't seem like that much, but actually is a lot. So you're trading a little bit of speed for more range and more agility. So Fighter 3 is definitely good. The other thing to note is that the production cost of Fighter 3 here is only like one more IC than the improved Fighter 2 design that I showed you earlier. So it's not going to cost a lot more IC. However, it does cost you one more aluminum. So let me just check that here. And aluminum 4 versus aluminum 3. So it depends in what game mode that you're playing, if you have enough aluminum to go Fighter 3. But if you have enough aluminum to do that, you could definitely go Fighter 3, and then you could even iterate upon this design, like adding more range with drop tanks. It did reduce speed a little bit by 20, but you could get more range and make more of like a long range aircraft. That's what I learned from building the small frame fighters. Now, whether it's going to be meta to do the 2X engine or not, I'm not sure. Just putting the 2X engine 4 on Fighter 3 here looks like the speed went up a crazy amount. The production costs went up by 4, but this might be useful. So with the speed that high, you could load it up with heavy cannons, and the air attack goes up to 36. Let's go ahead and put this into production so that I can actually see. Okay, so we have this. Let's compare it to the last iteration that only had a 4X engine. And as you can see here, the difference is the air attack is going to be up by 14. The agility, I think, is going to go down a little bit. Here, let's compare it with itself. The true agility, it looks like it stays the same. Fuel is actually going to be more with the plane with the 2 engines on it. And then the speed of the 2-engine plane is much greater. So you could make the 2-engine plane with extra fuel tanks here. The speed only goes down by 10. Wow. Can we add drop tanks too? Wow. So you could basically make a long-range, small-frame fighter here. The production cost, though, is bonkers. However, it can go 1,650 kilometers, which would be good on the Barbarossa front or in the Pacific Theater. It looks like the air defense does go down with these 2 modules here, which is interesting. But it would be a good long-range alternative fighter. It's just how many are you going to be able to field? And it looks overall like the stats have been reduced by blood alone. So what I've noticed is there's not a lot of fighters being shot down. And the reliability for every airframe, unless I missed something, is 80% fixed. So there's not going to be a lot of air accidents, and there's not going to be as many fighters being shot down. So perhaps it would be good to just go with this iteration of Fighter 3 or even Fighter 2, because you're going to have greater speed, greater range, a little bit less air defense of 2, but your air attack is going to be bonkers, and your agility is going to be the same. So it's a little tricky to see the stats here because there's some bugs going on, but I'm going to keep on testing these builds and showing you updated builds, and we'll find the meta here. So go check out By Blood Alone on the Steam workshop there. I think it's $20, and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. See you on the next one, guys.